Title IX doesn't define sex. Sex is defined by gender identity, and that's the debate here. If you were born as a male or a female, then your sex is therefore defined. There's wiggle room in Title IX. And that's where we need to go back to the drawing board and put in some suggestions that will withstand the test of time we currently have as a problem in women's sports. Hi there, and welcome to Bring It On Studios. I am with my gritty girls, Darian and Jen, and we have an exciting episode for you today. We are going to be discussing our top three, along with the great debate of transgender athletes in female sports.
Which is going to be an exciting topic to cover because it's a nuanced situation that we want to have our listeners question. So our top three: Oz Vision turns the Emerald City turquoise. The University of Berkeley announces an innovation in processing site.
They are looking at a grid that we don't understand, and it's going to help figure out why people are blind and bring sight back. I am all for in that.
Anything having to do with science that can benefit anyone who has eye problems or health problems.
It's amazing. All right, number two, put the water gun down. Senior assassin is back again, much to the chagrin of the police departments in Florida.
If we had better gun policies, I don't think that this fabulous event that seniors in high school look forward to would be so scary. I think people are terrified when they see a gun, and some of these automatic water pistols are pretty realistic looking.
So for all of you that are listening and don't know what senior assassin is, all the seniors, they have water guns, they wear swim goggles, and what you do is go around and you nail the person who doesn't have their goggles on. So it's called the senior assassin, and some people put money into the pot. And as people kind of get bounced off of the list because they were assassinated, the winner wins a big purse. I don't know if they do that in the high school where my nephews are down in Manasquan, but it's fun for the kids. But when you see people running around with water guns, it's scary.
There's safe places. They can't get hammered while they're playing a sporting event or when they're at a school event. So there are times that it's on and there's times that it's off. But the way that the kids do it in Rumson, New Jersey, we had people laying out in bushes ready to assassinate my daughters, and they look alike. So one would send the other out the door first just to see if she would get splattered. And it's good fun. It's just unfortunate that it revolves around guns.
I think it's a great opportunity to have something fun for your senior class. But as a parent now, I understand the stress of having young kids run around with water guns and driving and looking and not paying attention. So if your child's out there playing senior assassin, just have a conversation with them. Number one, Shador Sanders, slighted or outright punked? What happened with the NFL draft, guys?
No one wanted to inherit all that baggage. I mean, the Lambo driving, thinking he's Dion and he's not. You know, he by default he's a Sanders, but boy, that's a lot of luggage.
Samsonite. Well, he was supposed to go. He's supposed to go number 2, second pick. He went 144. He went in the 5th, and there was already a quarterback that was picked before him. So he's going on to a team where they have 5 quarterbacks with the Browns. So good luck. When he gets there, he's either going to throw down and prove them all wrong, or, like he said, eat some humble pie and go womp, 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 and might not even get a snap.
Yeah. Well,
only time shall tell.
But you definitely recognize that Deion Sanders definitely raised a diva. Whoa. Those are our top 3 this week, everyone. And we are going to now dive deep into a conversation that's happening really across the planet as to our transgenders in our athletics. And, we're going to cover this topic in a way that is, very respectful and understanding of the differences that we all have, and just trying to make heads or tails of what you think of it and get people to talk about this topic that is out there for the masses.
I happen to be the mother of 3 girls that play D1 sports. And I think from a physiology standpoint, anatomy, anatomical, if my daughters were playing against a male that became a female, I would be concerned because they just are stronger, faster, more powerful in so many different ways that it can pose as a threat. And it's not fair that you'd have to compete against somebody that already is anatomically superior.
And you see it when in puberty. We're all athletes as growing up. I remember being faster than most of the boys, what I perceived at that time to be a lot of my life up until 7th grade. And the onset of puberty happens. There's biological changes that make us inherently different for very obvious reasons. That being neither here nor there, that's a fact.
Well, I played boys lacrosse. They didn't have women's lacrosse at that time. So I played boys lacrosse 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I had to face off against my brother. I may have said this before. And I remember just like getting upset with him and get on the field facing off. And then I like slash him. And now if the tables were turned, if it was in high school and that happened and he slashed me, I would have really been hurt. And that's the problem.
And I have a lot of friends that have unbelievable hockey players that are females, and they have skated with all the boys and they've been on boy teams. But it gets to the point where in high school, they can't compete because the boys, want to make a statement like, you don't belong out here. And then they're just checking them and they're physically not even aware of the difference. Can slam somebody. We can slam you too, but it's just not going to be the same momentum.
I played boys ice hockey. I would play pond hockey with all my brothers. And so I played pond hockey and I was always the only girl. And luckily I had my brothers for defense. I was fast and I'm strong at that time. This one kid, every time we got on the ice, he would come over and check me. So one time leaned into him as hard as I could and tried to bounce him off the ice. And it hit him and just fell back. Then my brother came and beat him up. But I had no shot. I had no shot once he started checking. So when you're put into the arena with someone that's on an even playing field, you're the strongest. Serena Williams, she's the strongest in tennis. If she had to play against the strongest man in tennis, there's no competition. And who wants to be hit by one of those balls going 100+ miles an hour?
Let's just talk about the unfair physiology on that note. 40 to 50% stronger, their upper limbs, men, okay? 20 to 40% stronger than women, their lower limb strength. 12 kilograms more of skeletal muscle mass, male versus female hand grips. Just think about going and shaking a guy's hand and having him squeeze the crap out of it. I think I've got a strong handshake. There's just things that do not add up when you do the math.
Right.
And they have bigger lungs. They have higher hemoglobin concentration. They have larger hearts. They pump a greater blood volume. Everything is bigger. Their hands, their feet, all these things matter when you are competing.
I fully support the LGBTQ movement. And
absolutely,
everybody should be who they are, stay in their lane. I support them, and you be you, I will be me. Look, all these sports have grown. It took forever for women to get recognition in sports. Tennis, just recently, all the pro women are getting the same purse as the men. So it's been years and years. In ski racing, when I started, women got no recognition. You didn't get the same TV time. You didn't get the same sponsorship. You didn't get the same purses, et cetera, et cetera. So over time, you fought your way into trying to get the sponsorship. More women started coming to the sport. So you got recognition. And then all of a sudden the sport grew. The stands are getting fuller. Look at basketball. Caitlyn Jenner basketball right now. The stadiums are full. People are watching the games.
Caitlyn Jenner was a good Freudian slip.
So no, but Caitlyn Jenner, when she's saying that, look, I don't agree with it, then there's something wrong. So my thinking is you need to have an open division. And hey, open it up. And who are going to be the pioneers? Will it be Leah Thomas that comes and said, I'm going to go, there's a transgender category. Maybe there will only be one swimmer, but then there'll be two, then there'll be three. And it's building the sport, being the pioneer. Hey, offer that division. And then eventually it will be in the Olympics. I know they talked about, we don't want to go have our own event and not have anybody in the stands and not have a prize, not have a purse. Build it. If you build it, they will come. And it will come. Give them the respect that they deserve. And an open division, whatever you have to call it.
They
Well,
just
and
need
it's-
they need the numbers.
And they need the
You
numbers.
know,
and,
for athletes, like they need
Right, but it
a
will
team to
come.
compete against.
But
You
they-
know,
but that's-
somebody to swim against.
But that's the same thing that happened with women's sports. Let's be honest. Darian referenced earlier that, you know, when I started high school, which was longer than I'd like to remember, but we didn't have a girls soccer team. It's taken generations of things to change and be equitable and fair. And the women didn't have divisions to play in. So they would try and compete in the boys divisions, but it was inherently unfair to try and compete post-pubescent in that male division. So through time, through the Billie Jean King exhibition of the Battle of the Sexes, that was 73. It's evolved over the last 50 years. And I agree completely with it. If we had a separate division for the transgender population to participate in, that would grow just as the female division has grown. And the
Right.
popularity would become as interesting. There are athletes doing amazing things for their individual sports and raising awareness as to the equality that we all deserve as human beings, regardless of what you affiliate yourself with. So I couldn't agree more. And I think that
It's a
sports
shame
are
it's
what
a
they
lag
are.
right now, though. That's the
Yes,
hard part.
it is.
If you're a phenomenal athlete, whether you're a transgender or not, and you don't have people to compete against,
Mhm.
they're talented and they've worked just as hard. So it's a conversation, and this is where the narrative becomes tricky because they are equally as superior in their sport, and they don't have a big group of athletes on the same page to go against.
But they will come. That's the thing is how
Eventually.
go 5 years ago. Nobody heard of a transgender. Well, maybe in 2022, 2023, it became more prevalent.
The
but
1970s, Renee Richard was the first tennis player. You know, she was in the doubles final at the US Open. Actually, and the USTA required hormone testing in 1976. It's been around. There have been people dealing with this for years and years. And finally, it became a topic that was made on an even playing field. We've made a lot of advances on their behalf, and the equality movements have supported them. Title IX is very supportive, and then it's also counterproductive. They need to go back and revisit what Title IX was created for because of the advancements with the transgender population. It's tricky. I feel sorry for these talented athletes out there right now that don't have a division that's filled with other athletes that are like-minded.
like I said, I played boys lacrosse. I raced on the men's ski team for Montclair High School because they didn't have a women's team. And then you fast forward, you put in the time, you don't care because you love it and you're passionate about a sport and you want to be the best and you want a venue to compete. Right now, it's a tipping point. Be the pioneer. Go out there and put your foot down and say, I want a category then. If you're not going to work with me, we're going to find a group of people that will come. Because more and more people are out there wanting to compete that are transgender
Worldwide.
and it's worldwide.
That's why
so they
the
set
Olympics
the stage.
is a hot topic.
Right. So the Olympics is huge for that. I mean, look at the jiu-jitsu winner last year.
If you're fencing or you're boxing or you're doing something of that nature against women and you're a transgender female, you are at an advantage. And that's the point that I think makes the most sense that we can all relate to, no matter, you know, if you're pro or against. When it comes down to physiology, it's stressful. There's a phenomenal volleyball player, and she didn't make a name for herself for several years. She was kind of just in the middle of the barrel, but by her senior year, she started really honing her skill. She was an outside hitter. She can hit the ball 60 miles an hour, and she hit a couple players square in the face, and it was a problem because she was not playing with a fair playing field. You know?
Well, in 2023, Peyton McNabb, she was playing high school volleyball and suffered severe neck injuries resulting in long-term concussion symptoms, partial paralysis. This was in North Carolina high school, and she's still recovering from her injuries. And it's because she played against that transgender you were speaking
Blair
about,
Fleming.
and everybody knew about Blair, and they were afraid, but they were afraid to speak up. That North Carolina Athletic Association allowed biological males to compete against biological females. And Peyton says her life will never be the same because she wanted to go play sports in college and she's not. There's a movie that just came out called The Kill Shot, and it created by the Independent Women's Forum. And she's sharing her story.
Pat Boyle hit me in the face playing volleyball and he spiked one at me, I would be laid out. If I hit Pat Boyle in the face with a spike, because we're both volleyball
You'd be laid
players,
out for another reason.
I would be laid out. It's just tough. The problem with Title IX doesn't define sex. Sex is defined by gender identity, and that's the debate here. If you were born as a male or a female, then your sex is therefore defined. There's wiggle room in Title IX. And that's where we need to go back to the drawing board and put in some suggestions that will withstand the test of time we currently have as a problem in women's sports.
We referenced it last week in our episode with countries trying to tighten up the language, which is the issue too. It's the gender versus sex, and gender and sex were blurred, and the UK just passed a law. And so I think that's really what's at the crux of the conversation too. What exactly does it mean? And law and legality is a fluid thing as society changes. Women weren't allowed to vote not that long ago. Women were not able to participate in sports not that long ago. Things have to evolve and change. If we can evolve and change for females, for Black humans that were segregated not that long ago, there are things that have changed in society as our moral compass recognizes that we're being unfair to our fellow human man. That's
Equal protection is buzzword. What many people have suggested is that you go off of what is printed on a birth certificate at birth. That makes sense. That is the way it is, and that can't be argued against. And therefore, that is what should stand and define sex.
Well, some of them have both chromosomes. So there's also that gray area. So do you go by this? You have to go by the stronger chromosome. And I know that and right before the 2024 Paris Olympics, the transgender athletes face increased restrictions ahead of the Olympics because the IOC decided they have to have their transition completed before the age of 12 in order to compete. So that goes with what you're saying.
Wow, that's young.
And that's right before the Olympic last year. And that's why there were several transgender athletes competing in the Olympics. So, look,
see, I understand that. We have friends that as soon as one of their twins came out of the womb, identified as a boy. And it was very clear. The sister was always in pink and he was in blue. Call him he because he is a male now. But there was no question as to who he felt like he just was trapped in a female body and started the transitioning at an early age. I do believe that if there's somebody that comes out and they feel like they are in the wrong body, by all means, I would try to make that happen with counseling. I would try to expedite the process. So I do understand it happening at young ages for certain people, but I also am afraid that when you go through this phase of being a kid that doesn't even know who they really are yet, what is the proper timeline? How do you go about making the decision and supporting somebody that wants to go in that direction? If they're flirting with it, it's a very unique and individual decision to make, but I totally understand why people would start at an early age.
I think when we take it back to sports, you're talking about an athlete, a man or a female. You don't see females going to transition to a male and going to go jump in the ring with Mike Tyson. You don't see that. You don't see it in the NFL. You don't see him in the NBA.
Swimmers,
we have
you'll
to
see duathletes.
Right. Yes,
You'll see some,
there is a
some
dual
different
fencing, and they're dual athletes. We had the nicest guy for 10 years that lived in our apartment. And slowly she went through the transition and we supported her for years as she transitioned. And now you have this beautiful woman and she's so sweet. She's the strongest person that I have ever met. We had to move a couch out of the back of our pickup truck. And I had one end and I couldn't carry it. She basically carried this whole couch by herself. I would not want to get in any ring with her or compete against her. She's just physically stronger than me. And
they have a 50% greater weightlifting ability. If you use the NHS average size for men and women, They're 35% greater weightlifting ability in weighted matched events.
These are men you're talking
yes,
about.
this is men.
Okay.
This is like 10 to 12% faster for running and linear swimming events, 20% better in jumping events. The statistics are real.
And if you look at, if you're delineating men and women for the moment, most of the world records are held by men. There are a few that are not, but from a physicality standpoint, if you just look at the stats, we make this purely about math. It's proven that they just are the stronger of the two sexes. They can't have children. And
our pain thresholds
our
might be
pain
a little
thresholds are much better.
Right.
And we definitely have an endurance component. I think there's a world record holder for circumnavigating the globe and sailing. That's held by a female, at least at the last stat that I saw, which can be dated, but there are places where women can excel. Again, to Farley's point, coming back from a physicality standpoint, there's a major difference. And to Darian's point, the transitioning from male to female or female to male, regardless, is not one that is ever easily taken. The individuals that are choosing to do this are amazing human beings. And that's why I feel that they're deserving of their own category to compete.
Male-born golfer Haley Davison dominated in the women's NXXT golf tournament, just went in and dominated. It's just an unfair advantage because as far as a woman can hit their driver, a man's going to supersize it. My point is that there's endless stories. You have the Canadian female boxer who withdrew from fighting against a transgender in the championship match. Her opponent, Maya Walmsley, was a male at birth, but she withdrew. So here you have all these stories. All these athletes could go and have the courage and say, I want my own event. And you will find someone to box. You will find someone to race against. Only because we did it as women, it took a long time. You had to set the stage. You had to say, I'm going to do it because I love it. I don't care that nobody's watching me. I don't care if I don't get sponsors. I'm going to compete because I'm going to train just as hard as the men, just as hard as the women. And I am owed this opportunity. And I just hope that there's pioneers out there that will go dive head in, because I think it will start a great trend.
And as long as it's not somebody that is trying to transition because they think that they have a better opportunity on the other side. And that's been a big topic of discussion, unfortunately. I can't imagine transitioning just so that I could potentially win a gold medal. But it's for some people that could actually be the deciding factor. And that's a real situation.
Well, sports have the power to change lives, especially if you're up on like the biggest stage ever
with a gold medal.
And let's
it's
not forget
however
about
you
the
have
money.
to get there. There needs to be more opportunity, I think, for people
I read something
out there.
But that's why the money is important, because let's be honest.
But it will come.
If you have, but I'm saying if you create another category, look at the opportunity that the LGBTQ community has with just marketing them and advertising them as their own brand. There is tremendous potential, I believe, in adding an additional category from a monetary opportunity.
Yes.
It would be adding to the events that we already have, not taking away.
It would be adding to it. Its sponsors, I think, would drop in. You had the Paralympics. They have never gotten airtime. They were underground, and the athletes still showed up. They didn't care who they were competing against. It was just building it, and they kept coming, and there were more events. It's like building a new sport. And then all of a sudden, now they have airtime. They have the Paralympics are huge. They're enormous. I have a ton of friends that are competing in it. And it's the ones who took the time to say, you know what? I'm diving in because I love what I'm doing. And the money will come and the sponsorship will come. But they need to be given the opportunity. Don't do a sport because you want to get famous. I want to be the best in the world. And you get someone like Caitlyn Jenner, who agrees that trans athletes need to stay out of women's sports, saying, quote, quote, it's just not fair. And for her to say that, who is like,
look at what she did. When I read about that whole story, he basically said his whole entire life, he persecuted himself. He wanted to be Caitlyn. And he said that to shut the noise out of his head, it's why he believes that he was the athlete that he became, and his successes became evident because he was trying to kind of diffuse what was eventually going to become who he is. But that's why he said, I trained harder. I was able to focus. I had grit because I wanted to get out of my own head. And when I was competing, I was the best version of me that wasn't confused. And I think he did it the right way because he was true to himself in that his athletic as a man, being able to perform, did everything that he wanted to and then some, and then transitioned afterwards. And I give a lot of credit to a lot of the athletes that are also doing something similar. They're going through life in their body as who they are, and they are playing their sport and they're doing what they excel at, and then they're transitioning afterwards. And there's a lot of stories about those athletes that were very successful out there, and then they transitioned afterwards. It's just, it's a debate that's always going to be a debate.
Yeah, no, it's true. But it's hats off to everybody out there who's getting in the fields and
trans people make up 1 to 2% of the population and less than 0.002% in the United States. And Olympians are 0.001%. So it's small percentages, but the percentages are growing. And on the world level, obviously, that's probably a bigger scale, which is the Olympics.
right.
Yeah. And listen, if you are challenged in life, a lot of times they show that the people that have adversarial situations as youngsters actually figure out a way to be stronger and faster and better because of the challenges that they were given when they're younger. So I think there's great opportunities for these athletes to again, step onto the world stage, make a market for what they're doing. They're pretty phenomenal people.
Yeah.
So.
There are a lot of pioneers out there that have grinded it out, put the time in, and they're successful, and they created a sport. And I said it before,
Who's
gravity
gonna be the
games.
unicorn?
I've been part of it my whole life, playing on the men's team, playing against the boys, pioneering 2 sports, ski cross and women's free skiing, putting my foot down saying, no, I'm not competing against the boys in a ski cross. Then they gave us our own event. We didn't get the same purse that the men's got, but eventually we did. So hopefully this category can be created and give all these athletes out there the opportunity to go compete and showcase their skills, and who will be the pioneer, who will be that person, and what sports will be out there that will set the stage.
Yeah, because these people, when we talk about
they
these
will
people
come.
have got grit.
Yes.
They have got grit.
Yes.
So,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great conversation. I love having these deep dive conversations with you about people that are really embodying what we like to be here on Girls Gone Gritty. So it's going to be a tough got grit person we're talking about after all of these gritty topics, and following our got grit winner of last week, which was Pope Francis, who we're still celebrating and we will celebrate for a long time. But who are we following this week, Dee?
You know what? What was the most amazing part of what Pope Francis did was his final letter.
And from the hospital.
And it just still head to toe goosebumps. The priest read it for Sunday Mass, and it hits your soul.
It's so simple and
it
so
was
profound.
so simple.
Yeah, and he was so kind to every human. I mean, what he did for the population of transgender and inclusion and different religions,
He was so
is exactly what we need more of on this planet.
Yeah, so maybe we could put that up on
Yes.
the website, and everyone should come or Google it, because
we will
it
definitely
was
put
so
the final
special.
thoughts.
His final thoughts. And
how the hospital is an equal playing field.
Yes.
For everyone.
And that's it's all about equality. And that's what we're talking about.
Exactly.
And that's what we talked about today. It's equality. And if the opportunity is not there for you now, find a way to give yourself that opportunity. Bring your friends in and make it happen. Be the pioneer out there. So we're going to go to the Got Grit winner. This family that was in Seligman, Arizona. So they have a 2-year-old boy, little blonde-haired boy. And they live out in the middle of like deep forest, lion country, wildlife. And Buford the dog, this big giant Great Pyrenees, who just ran around the property, just protecting, keeping all the wildlife out from this beautiful little boy. Beautiful boy goes missing. So they send out helicopters, 4x4s, ATVs. They have scouts, they have dogs, they have everything Now, mind you, as a parent, you're like, what is out there? You know what's out there. You hear them at night. So there, it happens on a Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, they find him. Buford, the dog, finds the boy sleeping next to a tree and curls up next to him.
And how far away from home?
It was 7 miles. 7 miles.
7 miles. I mean,
7
it must-
miles.
He was
It must
2 year
have been a
old.
windy
2-year-old.
day. You know how
Mhm.
wind takes
You
little people.
follow it. And he was sleeping. The dog found him. So Buford the dog. It's
Buford the
Oh,
dog.
I know.
Buford.
And Great Pyrenees. I mean, they're like giant, beautiful,
This
beautiful,
is why, like
wolf
Sounder
dogs.
and Old Yeller and all these fabulous stories about dogs, they are heroes. And you know, Buford loved his little man.
Yeah.
2-year-old's little. Well, I'm going to move us now into our music segment. And again, we like to give you something that maybe may not be on your playlist. And again, you can always find it on our playlist on Spotify. So the lyric is, to be humble, to be kind. It is the giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love. We are one. We are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace. We are war. We are how we treat each other and nothing more.
That is fantastic.
Nice.
It's one of my
I mean,
favorites.
the lyrics are just once again spot on.
So that's actually Alternate Roots with a special little guest appearance by Lily Costner, who is Kevin Costner's daughter. Amazing song just about what we're talking about here, about how to treat one another and be kind and
What's it called?
inclusive.
Nothing more.
Not by Alternate Roots. It's just a great song to put in your ear when you need a little happiness and a little bit of compassion for others in your life when you're going through tough times or you're going through great times. It's all about the connections we make with one another. And hopefully we connected with you today on our episode and you feel connected to have good, meaningful conversations with people that you love, know, trust, with people that you don't know, don't love, and don't trust, and get a little closer to the people that you come into contact with every day, because you can make the world a better place.
I will make sure to post Pope Francis's final thoughts because truly it echoes the song. It echoes our episode today on transgender equality and the great debate in female sports. And thank you so much for joining us. So next week, we're going to talk about the blackout chaos, the huge power outage that hit Spain, Portugal, and France, and why we think it happened, and what would we do in a similar situation. We have to have plans. So tune in next week when we try to tell you a little bit about our plans in an emergency crisis, being prepared.
I was watching 0 Day. It's a series on Netflix. For those of you that are into the binging thing, I've only seen one episode, but it touches on this cyber attack ideology, and it's a real concern.
How often does your phone glitch? And everybody's glitching
It's
the
on
same day.
fire all the time.
And we're way too reliant on it. So
all right,
tune in
next week.